So to start with and to set up the right expectation, my brain is used to work at nights. And I did not come straight from work, thanks God, I would say, or probably I will not know what I will be saying today to you. So what I'm going to share with you today is not empirical. I didn't make a deep study, and I'm not a subject matter expert on generations or anything like that. And thanks God, we have some people from the UAP who can corroborate that. Probably they are much more experts than me on this. But it's a collection of thoughts that I had and experiences that we have been dealing with in ADP that I thought it might be of your interest. How to make this more entertaining, how to make this this session more engaging for all of you is certainly with your participation. I think it's fair to ask you, as I will be sharing my thoughts, that maybe you can share your thoughts as well with the rest of the group. That's what's going to make it, I think, more enriching for all of us. At the end of the day, none of us by ourselves is owner of the truth, but hopefully collectively we get probably closer to it. So I'm going to stand in here for a bit at the beginning, as I have I don't know why, a lot of notes in my first slide, so you got to hold with me for a second. Why of this topic, and we're going to cover this on the next slides as well. I thought that I had enough. I had enough of listening about the Gen X, the Gen Y, the millennials, and whoever comes next. And no one talks about how to deal with them collectively. Everybody talks about them, and I said, how come? And I've been Googling. I did some research and saying how to lead multi-generational workforce, how to lead multiple generations, and this nothing. Literally, I couldn't find anything. I went to the HR Business Press Review, the Harvard Business Press Review. I went to many sites and I couldn't find anything. So how come we all talk about this? It seems to be top of mind for all of us, and no one has ever put together maybe a collection of thoughts that will explain how do we survive for those who are not millennials with the millennials, which seems that it's going to be an invasion, right? They need to override everything. So this is why I kind of choose that topic and start digging into that and working through this. So to get started, and this is not part of the deck, but I just get it as a kind of a final addition here. Let me talk about what I call the M&Ms. The M&Ms is the myths of the millennials. So let me bring those down for a little bit, because we heard so much about them that I was at least confused, and I thought you might be too. So the first thing I want to say is that there are very small differences in the essential things between the baby boomers, and we're gonna, I'm using this jargon, and we're gonna see that later on, so don't worry. I have a slide that explains who is a baby boomer, who is a Gen X, who is a Gen Y, who is a millennial. But for the moment, just bear with me with the names. Very small difference. So for instance, I'll give you some examples. When we talk about career goals, you know what millennials want? They want to do a positive impact on the organization. Don't we? Right? We all seek the same. So that seems not to be very different. When we talk about what is the attribute for the perfect boss, they will say also that they prefer the boss to be consistent and highly ethical. I think most of us will buy as well on the same idea. In terms of how you want to be recognized, right? They say they like to be recognized individually and as well collectively. Maybe here there's some slight differences depending on your generation, that you might prefer kind of like, yeah, my recognition, you tell me, you give me money, and that's fine. I don't need to be this on all over social media and all this stuff. Probably for the millennials, that's a bit different, right? And in terms of learning, and that was the most surprising one for me, is that they still prefer to go to college. They still prefer to have face-to-face interactions. So it's not that just the online world will fulfill all their needs, right? But it's also that they need to have those interactions. So so I think that's putting us, into the stage of maybe getting started, no? Two more things here of the millennials. One is why they will change job, And I think also we all, at least I will agree with them on that, is that if I find a place where they pay me more and it's a more creative environment where I can express better myself and have better chance to succeed, I will change my job. So that's also something probably we all will sign up. As I said, and now that we're going to kick off, this is highly interactive. I see there's plenty of micros in the room. Just to stand up, I will stop. Let's do a question. Let's have a minute. It's more enriching, I think, the participation of all of us than just what I might have to say by my own here. Okay. So let's get started. What is the first thing I thought is like maybe to share with you, and hopefully some of those points will touch you as well, is what is my real concern with that? Why am I concerned on having to lead multiple generations? Haven't this been happening ever? Don't I have it home when I look at my children? Definitely they're not from my generation, I can tell you, especially my little one who's 4, is terrible. So what I was thinking is that maybe this time there is something different. The knowledge has been going through from generation to generation, and I have the feeling that today what I'm learning is not going to help me for the future. This is my concern, is that my experiences of today, and I'm talking real time, this moment now, might not help me to manage and to lead task force 5 years from now, because things might be radically different. The way they're expecting to get feedback, the way they're expecting to be motivated might be absolutely different from where we are doing it today. Then the other thing also that is hard is that they are already today, these youngsters acting very differently. You know? I feel myself, and I have some of my colleagues here, so they can corroborate that. I feel absolutely overwatched. Everything I do, any gesture, it's highly monitorized. Everything, it's been, let me put it, judged. Oh, look at what he did. He's not having a good day. Oh, look that, I mean, everything, right? Let me explain you a story on that it has been helping me. At least to create corrective actions to my disasters of the day today. The first one, I was not a Facebook friend. I was not having a Facebook page until I arrived to the Philippines. The very first question they asked me is, do you have a Facebook page? And I was like, no, why? My wife has one, so we put the pictures of the kids and everything. It's kind of family sharing and some friends as we've been moving around for the last 10 years. And like, why do you need that? Oh my God, you have to have a Facebook page. Like, everybody would like to know what you're doing. No? Like, well, maybe I don't want them to know what I'm doing every day, right? And I did. So I followed my great advice from my marketing leader, and I opened up a Facebook page. And I remember the first week, and my wife is here in the room, I told her, like, how many friends you have? Told me, I have like 300. Like, oh, I'm 20. And I was like, okay, I got to beat this up, right? That's the leader in me. Like, I need to be very competitive. So now I have 1,000. She still has 380 something. Sorry, honey. And this is changing. The fact, for instance, let me continue elaborate on the example. So my operations director is American from Minnesota, tough people from Minnesota, a very cold place. But he's been living for good here in the Philippines for the last 8 years. He's married to a Filipino. He's got 2 Filipino children, and seems like he's happily ever after. He comes from a different culture. I come from a different culture. Despite we try to adjust, and I personally like very much the Filipino culture. We interact differently, probably when we do it with Filipinos or between Filipinos. So in one of our meetings, we argue. For me, this is the most normal thing in the world. I'm Latin, I'm from Spain, even from Barcelona, the Mediterranean, the Phoenicians. We used to argue, we used to rebate, we used to negotiate prices. Like, it's part of our life to life. If we don't dispute, we're not happy. So that was part of our happiness, right? We were arguing, but we were arguing in front maybe of other managers and a pretty large group. And there was a big concern like, oh my God, what happened? Have you seen that? They were arguing. It's like the company's going to, and that was the thing, the company's going to fall apart. And thanks God I was having already my Facebook page, so I could put pictures of both of us together and say, what a great discussion, and really enriched, how many things I learned out of that, and thank you for bringing it up. So those are, for instance, tips that I'm learning that it makes a difference. Maybe they don't need to be treated on the big scheme of things very differently, but those small details, as we're going to talk further on, might make the difference, right? So being overwatched, also you can try to be overexposed, and that might help you out to override the fact that they might be microanalyzing everything you do. Yeah, that's another thing that for me it's hard. It's been hard to become what I am, to be honest. My career has been tough for my wife and I. We need to move to many places and work very hard, as all of you for sure. And when you reach out to a place where you're kind of like leading an organization, you think like, oh, this is it. I just need to say, they will do. What a disappointment to discover that it's absolutely the reverse. Basically, they will say, you will do. Right? There's no way you're going to change, in my case, 2,700 associates, but probably they will have an impact on me, right? I mean, I cannot face all of them at once. So there's no more directional leading or leadership style allowed anymore with those generations, but it's more of a socialization, right? And again, that's where the channels that they choose, not the ones you choose, because trust me, for me, I will not have a Facebook page, but the channels that they choose are becoming more relevant than ever for you to get your message along, to make sure and use as a sound bar how things are going, and are we going in the direction that at least you wanted them to go. Mm-hmm. How are we doing so far? Oh, good? Yes. Yeah? Any questions or something, please just let me know. Let me bring some data to you, but it's a presentation without data. So this is where it's interesting. I only have 1% of baby boomers, and I can tell you it's less than 5 people because I know who they are, right? They're not that many in my organization. So I'm invaded by Gen Y as Gen Z or the millennials are coming along, right? If you look at the world on 2020 and what is expected on an average company, certainly each of us might fit closer or longer to this one. This is for me what is the most scary part, right? I mean, you see you're going to need to live in with those 5 generations. And again, we're looking always, I look downstairs in the sense that I have only 1% of baby boomers. But, I mean, don't be naive. You might have more. And normally those baby boomers, they are not at the low end of your pyramid. They're at the top age of the responsibility of your organization, right? I mean, they've been along for so long time, even it's just by experience, we normally give them the chance to lead part of the business, if not the whole business, you know? Another thing that is scary for me in this picture is that, let me allow me to use a Filipino expression here, is that I will have no kuyas or ates to take care of the youngest. It's going to be only one generation between the millennials and the ones that, or between the ones we have and the millennials who are arriving. So it means who is going to transfer these, let's say, not written knowledge, right? The part of like, well, yes, what you're saying is right, but at the end of the day, this is not how things happen in life, right? How many times we heard this, right? Yeah, but just wait a little bit. You will understand later. No? Even our parents were saying that, we were not believing, and now that I have children, I can tell you how right they were. I mean, yeah, you're not supposed to understand everything, but just to respect what we say. And thank God they were right. No? So those are the things who are making it, or the panorama to look a bit scary. So as I told you, I have this slide to even put traditionals. I don't have any traditional, but there's still some traditionals over there as well, and they deserve to be considered, no? How you see things it might be shared. I mean, I read this very careful, because the tendency of the studies and what you find out there with the generations is that, oh, yeah, the generation Y, they work with purpose. And my question is, when? When are they generation Y? It's not the person evolving of time, right? So that's why I'm saying that the gaps are going to be, that's the hope we have, is that the gaps are going to be closer and they're going to shrink to make it easier to manage. But let's assume for a moment that, this is a constant in life, so that this won't change, okay? So the biggest, maybe you can read through that, don't worry, I'll give you time, is I think the biggest difference that you can encounter here is basically on what is relative to the person and the perception of things for that person. And our friends from the UIP, they can help us out here if we need so, but let's think for a moment on how we used to go to school and what things, or college, and how things we will question ourselves versus the things that today's generations are questioning themselves. At least I will tell you, the school I used to go, when the teacher will come in, we will all stand up and show respect to the teacher. No way you talk in class, right? So no socialization, right? While today, even I will say the schools and the colleges are adjusting to how can we enroll the students in a more active role, right, in the class, rather than just basically us giving the lecture, which I'm in favor of. Like, I think it's probably a better learning, and the tacit knowledge of the entire group shows up, and there's much more opportunity into that, no? So this, for instance, is one of the biggest differences. The other difference is the purpose of life, and for me, I would say that relates to the job changing, no? From the traditionals, it's like, I need to make the right choice because I will adjust to my company so I can work there for the rest of my life. Versus now is, my good GM, if you don't care about how I want things done here, I'm leaving tomorrow. But this mindset of I can choose, this mindset of I can build it up by my own, for me, and to consume it instantly, I think is the biggest challenge that we're going to need to face. And we will talk on how we're going to, or what we have done in ADP. Not that this is the magical solution, certainly. It does work to some extent for us, and we'll show that a bit later. Let me debrief for you the pictures that we put in here, right? So in the development, the traditionals are based on the experience. So a lot of hard skills training, the rest comes along by your time spent at work and the people you've been dealing with, basically, on your professional career. For the baby boomers, it's about the knowledge. Then my generation is I want to drive my career. And that's where we are, for instance, in ADP. Actually, we even have a wheel, and we have a program that's called, Drive Your Career Growth, Drive Your Potential, right? Because most of our associates today are Gen X globally. And that means, I need you to tell me what you think is a good idea, what will you suggest me, but it will be me deciding which training I'm taking, when am I taking it, and that's it, no? Then for Gen Y, I would say that, I don't want to say this is not that they are less self-made, but they used to share more. And when you tell them, and actually when I have one-on-one coaching sessions with them, I think they appreciate it. But when I have sessions collectively, and we do a training or we do some share of ideas, then it's excitement all over. As we go down the roads of the generations, I think they like the participation and I keep calling it socialization, of all those events farther than just having it for themselves. What is the point to have it for me if I cannot share it with anyone? Kind of like the thinking that they have in this sense. And for the new ones coming, and that's where we are all in nowadays, at least at ADPs, we're kind of gamifying everything, right? Can I gamify my goals? Can I gamify my learning? Can I gamify, how you become a leader? It's just crazy. It seems life is a game, and sometimes maybe we need to step back and think is this really what we want? Because again, the difficulty for me is that at this moment of time, this makes sense. But what am I doing today, how is going to reflect 10 years from now for those potential leaders or the leaders that we're trying to leverage? Is this going to help them? How sustainable is the model over time, and how many times we're going to need to change it? From a job changing perspective, we already talked a bit about it. It's, I stay forever. I'm on hold unless you don't tell me I need to go, or kind of read the signals of the stars. I will not move. From Gen X is only if I need to, right? If I'm a comfort at the organization and it's ethical and I feel understood and I think I'm a good fit, I don't necessarily need to look for other environments proactively. While for the other two generations, it's absolutely different. Certainly we don't know for the millennials because they even have had time probably yet to change job. But at least for Gen Y, you can see it's hard for them to assume that they're going to stay there forever. No? That, there might be other things that I want to experience. There might be other things within this world that I want to taste. And that happens with everything. Not only, if you look at the signals are all over, right? We're talking sometimes with my wife. It's like, we're very simple. We like a restaurant. We go over and over and over and over and over. Like, we like it. Why do we need to change it? Well, when you talk with youngsters, it's like, oh, again? Now, Dad, we're going there again. Like, can we not go somewhere else? Like, you don't like it? Yeah, I love it. It's my favorite restaurant. So? No, but I want to try something different, no? So I think also that comes a bit with age and not just with the generation. I hope, otherwise it will be very hard in the future to handle, right? Okay. Then, I have also some comparisons. So I found this very interesting, and I kind of wanted to reflect maybe a bit more of the reality of today. And so I promise I'm going to start talking a bit about the millennials, and I'm going to talk about what we're facing today with this Gen Y. So I love this one, and then I found it in the internet. I asked this question. I was like, okay, can someone save me from my baby boomer manager? Like, we don't understand each other. This is crazy. You need divorce here, right? From a managerial perspective. And then I highlight some of the points that I think are very different, no? One very important is, and that made me think a lot, by the way. I don't think it's the right thing, but this is how we are at the end of the day, is that we live to work. I can tell you, I live to work. It's my purpose in life. I'm not saying I tell you, I don't think it's the right thing, but this is what it is. While those are maybe some things we can also learn from those generations, that no, they work to live. It's more important what happens at work than what happens at work. When I sit down, maybe on those events, when you sit down with some friends, when you go to a restaurant with your spouse, you just think for a minute, what do you talk about? What's most of the conversation being driving? It's my experiences at work. And you can say, well, that's where I spend most of my time. Yeah, but also that's probably top of mind. You also spend a lot of time of your life in some other places you don't talk about. For instance, the comfort room. You don't talk about it, right? And you spend probably a fair amount of time over there, over your life. So this is something, for instance, for them is different, no? And what they're going to talk to you is about, we want to go to the Pinatubo, the volcano, we want to go there, we want to do that, we're going to play football, we're going to do, and it only has been an hour or an hour and a half of the entire week, and that's what it's the highlights. How has been your week? We did that. And it's barely like, you know what, we get this process, we improve it, and I'm so excited that they don't talk this way, right? Unfortunately for us, we would love that, but it's a bit hard. So another good one is the formality. And I think this is cultural. I mean, I come from different, as Richard was saying, I've been working with, had the pleasure, I need to say, to work with at least 30 different cultures in this world. Like closely, like having people daily working with me. And the formality is probably one of the things that are more difficult to manage, especially the one that is about punctuality in meetings. I had one time a big dispute. We're talking about leaders, people who is today running a $200 million business. And like babies, disputing of, I'm not coming to this meeting ever again. You always come late. And this is a Dutch talking to a French, right? And the French is like, what are you talking about? It's only 50 minutes. That's the formality. And my wife and I, who've been living in France, I can tell you that, and my wife is, it's psychotic of punctuality. Like if it's 9:30, trust me, I'll ring your door 9:30 sharp. And I'm also like, people maybe need 2-3 minutes. And when we were in France, actually, it took us a while to discover that we were always the first ones to arrive. But to a point that even the hosting family was not even ready. And we were like, but I'm sorry, but you told us 8, and yes, and it's 8. So it's like we're not bad here. Like why are we making us feel bad? And you will learn that no, 8 means that okay, you need to have those 20-30 minutes of courtesy for make sure that they prepare. So it's like it seems like they start preparing at 8 rather than be ready at 8. And that's not acceptable for a Dutch, right? A Dutch is kind of even probably the Spanish are not very punctual, but the Dutch are, right? 8 is 8. Why you say 8 if you don't mean 8? Say 8:30, I'll come 8:30, and then you give me more efficiency of my time. So in this formality, this is I think it is a big gap, no? And that thing it's one hard to overcome. For instance, how we look like, it's very relevant to us, the vast majority in the room. Not I'm saying physically, like how do I say hi? How will I sit on the table? How I'm going to drink my coffee? So on and so forth. This part of the formality versus on those younger generations is, well, what is relevant is the value that I'm bringing to you. Not how am I making this value for you. And that's something that at least for me personally, it's difficult because at least on my education, as I said, and on school and even with my parents who were very aligned, it's kind of like very strict in this sense. So I do have a lot of formality, I would say, inside of me and respect in this sense. Not that they don't have the respect, though. I don't want to say this. That's another good one, and I think that's another learning lesson that we can take from the younger generations. Sorry, you want to? Yes, there's a question. Please go ahead. Or a comment. Or experience to share, also very welcome, of course.
It's just a question, Elias. No? Actually, 2.
Please.
One is the slides are so good and the explanation. Is it possible that you'll make them available?
Yes, they will. Richard already has the file to send it over.
Great. My second question is this. When I read the write-up to this session and I saw multi-gen leadership and I went down the article, the thing that caught my eye is the skill of employee engagement. Mm-hmm. What came across to me is with all your background, both cultures and managerial, the gift that you seem to have from reading your write-up is to be able, like here, in 2 years, to move in and engage employees at all levels, so that something happens in the company.
Yeah, well, I'm one slide away.
Okay, great.
If you allow me to.
I want to know your secret to employee engagement, and from a scale of 1 to 10, if you started at 2, where have you brought in your mind the organization?
Let me hold your question, put it in the parking lot. My next 2 slides is how to talk on how to avoid conflict, which is going to start, debriefing of things that we have done, and then what specifically we're doing in ADP within those 2 years.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for your questions and helping me out on this one. I don't feel alone anymore. Thank you so much. Okay, then another example of the formality, I just saw it while walking by, the multitasking. And I was having with one of my diary reports a conversation last week about it. It's like, I told him, it's rude. I'm sorry, it's rude. Don't do it. No, but I have 1/4 of my brain can do this. I know it, yeah, you have a super intel in your head. I might know it, but it's rude, right? Don't do it because these gestures that we were talking, it seems to me, which I'm from a different generation, that what I'm saying is not relevant to you. And you know what? I'm showing respect when you talk and trying to pay all my attention and make sure that I capture that. And it's not that they're not doing it. Probably they're more capable than us. Maybe they are. The other one that I was saying, it was the process one, which is we are driven or we are educated in a subject expertise, right? I mean, it's not common, I would say, on baby boomers, even on Gen X, that you find people who've been working, let's say, in 3 different industries. Like, oh, I've been doing, like for me, HR services, then I jump to do cars, and then I go and do, I don't know, some kind of IT stuff or, right, or consulting. It's not common. While for them, it's going to be absolutely different. Why? Because we're driven by the knowledge. We still believe, and that's a big mistake, by the way, at least my thinking, that we need the knowledge to lead. For them, this is different. They don't care about the knowledge because the knowledge is available. Today, you want to learn something, just Google it. You'll find everything you want. You want to be a hacker? I tell you, you give me 3 weeks, I'm a computer science by formation. Unfortunately, I choose another path. I think the computer science was probably better nowadays. You know, you give me 3 weeks of holidays, nothing to do, and I can YouTube and Google. Damn it, I'm a black hat. 3 weeks. Doesn't take me more. I'm sure, because everything is there. You know how to do this, how to do that. How, you know, I'm doing my little steps into the culinary world, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not that good. And my wife and the kids don't like my food, but I'm learning through the internet. And I go and search, you know, Ferran Adrià, how he does the paella. And I read, and then I go to a restaurant, how does the paella? And then I take the 2 or 3 of them, mix it, like, okay, that's what it sounds to me like, a good combo of paella. And I try to do them my paella, right? This was absolutely inconceivable for us back on the days, no? Okay, my friend, let's go to your question. I think it's important, this slide, before we jump into the solutioning, to understand, because there is some philosophy behind the solutioning we're putting into ADP. There is a lot of purpose, hopefully the right purpose, but I mean, we're talking about things who are changing or adjusting the behavior and the culture of the company. So there needs to be some philosophical background somehow, no? So things that we are doing is trying to mimic, no, I didn't explain it later, but what I call the casting the shadow of the leader is more relevant than ever. These younger generations, they learn more by mimic and by seeing and experiencing than by reading or lecturing. So if you want them to love you, no, very basic, love them. Trust me, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to love the people who are saying, I don't like the way you do those things. I mean, bottom line, no? And you can read this. I'm not going to read for you. Anyone needs help on reading, or from the back, I'm happy to read. Just let me know. Try, and that's the difficulty, no? That try to adjust to every single individual. And that's kind of the challenge that when I arrived here in the Philippines, I basically developed most of my career developing and starting up business. Some of them, unfortunately, just for ADP, would love that will be mine nowadays. I'll be probably in a very wealthier position. is how do you adjust to a large organization? No, when I used to work with teams of hundreds, the low hundreds, how do you are able to what I call flex to each individual when you're running 2,700, 5,000, 10,000 people? No, I think that there's a moment where the numbers don't matter anymore. So what we created is we created a program that we call WOW. We wanted to create something, and I'll go straight into that, just give me a second, that will engage them, that will really hook them in. So we said, well, wow, what do we want them to say when they work in our company, when they come every day? Wow. And then we develop a philosophy behind this, which is I think it's very simple to understand and to explain, which is, it's a choice in your life. And every Monday, I welcome all the new associates of ADP. Sometimes we have on the 50s, 60s, 70 people, sometimes it's 2. But I still sit down and spend 1 hour with all of them, and I talk to them about the choice that they want them to make on their lives, which is, I choose to wow. And it's an attitude of life. Because we cannot pretend someone to wow, and we're going to go, what is this in a second, when you walk in the door, and then don't wow when you walk out of the door, right? If wow is how you're going to put the rest, all your life to the service of others, how I'm going to make that the experience of every interaction I have across my day, it creates a wow on the other person. It's a choice of life. It's not something that you walk into ADP, you see the sign or the branding is like, oh, I'm going to wow. And then when I walk out, oh, I don't need to wow anymore. Oh, I feel more. No, you're going to wow your wife, you're going to wow your children, you're going to wow your neighbor, you're going to wow your cousin, you're going to wow your in-laws. Yeah, it's hard to do. You're going to wow everybody, right? Your associates, and it's the same. So they wow your clients. That's the bottom line. The purpose is, how can I make a happy client if my associate is not happy, right? And let's go to that. So here what we're doing is a set of things, and we're making this collectively. So we created the theme, it was kind of March, Carl, you help me here, March 2015, I think, no? We started a bit earlier on the senior leadership team on that, but then we stopped it to make sure we hook in the senior leaders of the company. We debriefed it all together. We come out with 34 projects or ideas that will help us to wow. We're so dumb that we only could take 6 at a time, and we're working on those 6. One is about to be finished, which will be replaced by another one. So it's a long, I'm trying to say it's a long journey. It's not something that we are doing in, 6 months, done, and see what is the impact. We're certainly seeing some impact, but it takes some time to get it, no? So we're changing the paradigm. The paradigm of the organization. And we mean it. Like, I know it looks great on the slide, but no, trust me, we walk the talk. We do it. That's why I sit down every Monday, for an hour with all the new associates. I'm exhausted to send out emails, to talk to people saying, come to my office. Don't even knock the door. Don't knock the door because it's always open. But walk in and say, hey, Josep, good morning, how are you? I want to be your friend. I need to know what you need. What do you need to, wow the clients? What are the roadblocks that we are putting as an organization that prevents you to do the very best, right? And it is not an easy thing to do from a leader perspective because you have all those layers in between, right? My senior leaders will also complain saying, hey, what is our role here? Right? When you go directly to the associates, you're taking charge of that, and the managers will be the same, and the poor team leads are like, oh, well, Josep was here, and then everything gets decontrolled, and I don't know what to do, right? And we need to be respectful because we need those people as well to do that. So it is a process also that we learn in our journey that jumping from A to Z, it looks like a shortcut, but it's going to give you more trouble. So you got to go the A, B, C, right? And go through the different layers of the organization. And today, everybody on, I would say, the top management, which we are 45 people of the company, will live this. and they know it by heart. We have been hammering this over and over and over and over so many times that I guess that the one who's not living it will already left the company because it won't feel comfortable. So if you come to ADP trying to lead, sorry, wrong place. We serve, we don't lead. And that's the change in the paradigm. We are the carpet for our associates to step in soft. This is their show. It is their time to shine and not ours. Then we develop projects that matter to them and they are participated by them. So we were so lost into that when we started because, again, you Google it once more in your in the internet. It's like, how do I wow clients? And yeah, it's lots of books, Good to Great, and the effortless client experience, and blah blah. Great stuff, by the way. A lot of great ideas, a lot of great things on those books, no? But none is telling you the magical, as I call it, the magical formula. And you know what? We spend so much. When I think about it, we spend months just trying to think and think and think. When this is as simple as to get as we do now. Some associates put them there and tell them this is what we want to achieve, how we will do it, and they tell you, trust me, right away. They know it better than we do. No. Yeah, I'm so excited. We start to open in the town hall. So we're so many that it's hard to have town halls with everybody. We don't have actually we only fit, and I'm sorry for the hotel, but we only fit in the ballroom of the Marriott nowadays. And yeah, it's so expensive to get it every month to try to talk to all associates, right? I mean, this is something unfortunately we cannot afford. But then so what we're starting to do is in the leadership town halls. So I mean, the meetings were just for senior managers and above. We invited associates. And the impact has been phenomenal. Because they were thinking this is like a secret society and that we're doing empirical, metamorphosis of the business and drink blood and all this kind of stuff. And they saw that, no, we're just people who are struggling to know how can we help them further. And, that gets spread so fast on the organization. And now, with the use of technology, we're going to try to do a global town hall using, the broadcasting and all those things. So hopefully that's going to be great, no? And the other thing is then we applied them for the last two. Those are, I think, more easy things to do, and probably you're already doing some of that in your organization, which is just be smart and try to brand it, no? We have an associate survey. It's a questionnaire that basically asks around 40 questions rated on how do I feel, do I have a promising future, do I have all the tools I need to serve my clients, blah, 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 blah. And on that score, I'll show you some of the scores later on. Then we spend a year, it's once a year, so we spend the whole year doing lots of things on that will help, and create a retirement plan, and we do those benefits, and here, there, and blah, 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 all this stuff. And you know what? We were not explaining what we were doing to them. Yeah, they will come out, you have a retirement, and you will think, well, they will know, they were asking for a retirement plan, we have a retirement plan. No, they don't connect. Because they live on this instant of, this is what I need, and then I drop you. It's there, I disconnect, it's there, you know it. It will happen, and if it doesn't happen, I'll be disappointed. But I won't look at it again until it comes back to my mind. So we created a brand that we call Your Vision, Our Future, and it's related to we pull those questions, what they ask us to do, and what we have done about it. Like, very elementary information, and I think this is making the click for them to realize, oh, yes, this was a concern. Look, they fix it, no, or they work on it. And then we develop recognition programs. The one that I think very successful is, so we have a mascot now. We have a dog. We call it Spot the dog because the program is called Spotlight. So you need to imagine, and it's a huge success. It only cost us one Polaroid camera. So this is an associate that set of associates that nobody else than George, who's here, knows who they are. And they dress up as a dog, cute dog, and they go with a Polaroid camera. And you know what? There's someone who has said, this person has been wowing me, or I saw how wow a client, or whatever, and they just send it. we get it, and the dog will go and say, wow to the person, and they have an instant picture. How frustrating it is that you have your manager, yes, thank you, you have a great job, and we'll give you a medal, and but this is just a fake one, but we do this, right? And we said, well, this is cheaper, and you know what? They start putting their pictures in the walls, and they probably show it, and they bring it home and say, look what I got. I got spotted dog coming and saying me that I've been doing a great job. No? So this is my last slide, and then I'll open it up for comments, my friends. So what this has bring, where we are today, and there's some, all the metrics have improved. I didn't want to put the pre-post because it's kind of hard to measure what's really the pre. And as I told you, I didn't pretend to do an empirical presentation here this morning. So just to give you an idea, we have a retention rate of almost 83%. If we discount the voluntary one, we will be at 93%, which is probably too high, I would say, even, no? Because the fire needs the smoke to come out. So I'm a believer of that. The organization also needs, so a certain level of regeneration. From an associate satisfaction survey, so that will be that among those 40 questions, 82.2% of the associates have responded them in a positive manner, like I kind of like either I agree or I'm satisfied or things like that. No? From a client satisfaction, and again we have 50 functions in the company, so it's hard to consolidate all those results. That will mean that 80% of the metrics that we have are above the target. That will be the 79.8% of the way to read it. No? And from the efficiency is the same. So what this is bringing as well on top that is kind of unexpected is that the associates are starting to feel more empowered. And at the different levels of the organization, not only the associates, also the team lead who used to be more there on like, wipe, work, that's my job. I make you work, heads down, and so they're starting to feel more empowered, and they're coming with very creative ideas on how we can improve the process. I have, for instance, this week, and trust me, it was not the greatest time of my day when he did that, but and that's why sometimes it's hard to deal with the monster you create. I had an associate who reached me out saying, for the BIR forms, hey, Josep, this is Aldrin. I have an idea for the BIR forms. And I was like, who is this guy and what is he talking about, right? On this kind of chats that everybody can connect with you instantly. And like, hey, Aldrin, thanks for reaching out. What are you talking about? No, how are we doing them? And I think we can do them better and everything. Can I call you? And it's like, well, now is not a great time. Why don't I schedule a call certainly this week with you? And yeah, I'm going to meet with him tonight. And he's going to explain me that he thinks we can do this better. And Carol, you've been in ADP Philippines longer than I've been, but that's not the normal thing that happens before in our organization, right? Those great ideas, they will dry out. They will never see the light. So creating this funnel, and this opportunity for different levels of the organization, I think it's certainly worth it. At the end of the day, I think the biggest, I'm going to share a secret with you. We're doing all this because I think this creates the biggest competitive advantage for a company. Today you can copy technology, you can copy process, you can capture knowledge. It's just a matter of time and money. But what you cannot take away from one place and bring it to the other is the culture. And developing that culture, I think that's why we are doing it actually as well, is because it's creating an incredible competitive advantage versus anybody else. Because having engaged associates, as we all know, it's priceless.